Now, what's good, everyone? So, I wanted to jump on today and talk a little bit about Petrotrin in Trinidad. And with an upcoming election, that's going to be probably at the core and one of the main topics of discussion in Trinidad, especially with America and the new Trump government and the trade deals he's likely to strike with Trinidad and the rest of the Caribbean. It's important we talk about this so at least you have an idea of what's about to go down. I hope this video is going to you're going to leave this video a little bit more knowledgeable about how economy works and how Trinidad economy works and how a Trump presidency is going to affect that in the not so distant future. So everyone know growing up that Petrotrin was a main employee in Trinidad. So I remember growing up in Trinidad, everyone was talking about Petrotrin, boy, I had to get a work with Petrotrin, boy. If you get a contract with Petrotrin, real money and all, So everybody wanted a job. Everyone wanted to work for Petrotrin. And essentially, Petrotrin wasn't the huge employer we thought it was. Petrotrin, in a country of about 1.2, but now Trinidad's about 1.4 million people as of now. But it's always been around the 1 million mark. Petrotrin employed about 3,400 people at its max, 3,400 people. But because Petrotrin was an oil refinery, it was huge to the economy. So any entity that refines oil brings in a lot of money to a country's GDP. You've heard of the likes of Shell, BP. They are multi-billion pound companies because they can refine oil, refine the crude oil that you get out of the ground. It's useless until it's refined. And that's what Petrotrin did. Now, Petrotrin, like I mentioned, was a state-owned company, meaning that it was owned by the government. It was owned by the government. So the money made by Petrotrin should have been distributed equally amongst the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, being a state-owned company. Now, what went wrong? I've made some notes on this. I'm going to try and give you some numbers, and I hope you understand. You have a better understanding after this video as to what went wrong or how Petrotrin was eventually shut down, I believe in 2018, by the government serving at the time. Now, Petrotrin, like I said, was the pride of Trinidad, but behind the scenes, there was crack beginning to appear. There was a lot of things going on behind the scenes. There was a decline in oil production in Trinidad. That's the first thing. And when there's a decline in oil production, then the country has to import oil from other countries, namely Venezuela or possibly America. They would import the oil from another country and then refine the oil in our country to then sell the oil back to the countries that need it, right? So that's how it works. So that in itself is ineffective, as you can imagine. You're much preferred to have your own oil, your own crude oil that you're refining to then sell on. To buy that crude oil from another country, to refine it, to then sell it on doesn't make any financial sense. So you can see how the company would suffer that way. Not to mention that the equipment that Petrotrin were using were massively outdated. Essentially, Petrotrin could not keep up. They could not keep up with the modern technology needed to provide refined oil to the rest of the world. So we were providing oil mainly to America and to the rest of the world as well. But the rest of the world were moving on. The engineering for helicopters and planes and cars were getting a bit more technical. So the oil needed to be refined. The refinery needed to be updated. And we essentially weren't updating. The company wasn't updating, or the Petrotrin wasn't updating itself to align itself with the new norms, essentially, the needs of these countries, the needs of these new machineries, the needs of the new helicopters and aeroplanes and these new technical things that were being built. We couldn't keep up because we weren't modernizing the company itself. So it needed to do that. So as you can see, less countries were buying from us now because the oil we were refining and putting out wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough, right? So Petrotrin suffered massively because of that. So by 2018, it was drowning in debt, Petrotrin. They were drowning in debt. They had loans of up to 11 billion TT in loans they owed. Not to mention the pension that they owed their workers was in around 12 billion TT. So they were up to their neck in debt. In 2018, it was estimated they were losing around 2 billion TT dollars a year. Real money. 2,000 billion TT dollars a year this company was losing. The government then did the maths in 2018 and estimated that it would cost Petrotrin in and around 25 billion over the next 5 years to keep it up and going, to keep it running. And clearly the government looked at it and said, nah boy, that real money, we can't do that. We can't keep up it. I real 25, where you finding 25 billion from? So 25 billion, they thought $25 billion, they didn't have the money to keep up. So they decided that, you know what, the best thing is to shut down Petrotrin, to the annoyance of most of the Trinidad public. And rightly so. You cannot argue that it was inefficiently run, it was badly run, and of course, government efficiency led to a company being shut down. But that's not to say that Petrotrin weren't up against it anyway. Because if you're competing with the rest of the world, Asia, America, etc., Europe, it's very difficult with an economy like a tiny island like Trinidad to compete with the likes of these countries. So who's to say that it probably wouldn't have been shut down anyway? Because we just can compete on a level with these countries. So when Petrotrin was shut down, eventually the government created two companies. One was called the Heritage Petroleum Company, which focused on oil production. And the second one was called Pariah Fuel Trading, which focused on fuel trading and fuel distribution, essentially. So the people, of the 3,400 people that was fired or essentially laid off from Petrotrin, a lot of them were given jobs for the Heritage Petroleum Company and the Pariah Fuel Company. But these companies will have never been as, efficient, or never been as, what's the word I'm looking for here, productive to the economy as Petrotrin was going to be. It was never, but the government had to be seen to be doing something, right? So they did something. They created these two companies, but it was never going to be, they're never going to add to the economy anywhere near what an oil refinery does. Oil refineries are the core of most countries. Most countries' GDP is based on their oil refineries and how much money these refineries bring in. You know, the likes of Shell, BP, etc. They're billion pound companies, and countries in Europe and America rely on these countries to prop up their GDP. So we were up against it anyway. So where do we go from here? Where did Trinidad go from here? So it went the privatized route. They started bringing in oil refineries from abroad, and they were taken over, and we started buying refined oil from abroad, which obviously is not good for any economy. We went from producing it to buying it. That's never good, and that massively affect the economy. Today, Trinidad still massively relies on oil and gas as its main source of income. Now, we trade in oil and gas. They're mainly America, who's our biggest trading partner. We trade something like 40% of our GDP. The country's wealth is trades we do with America. Now, as you know, America now has a new president called Donald Trump. Now, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I think the man's a clown. I think he's a racist. I think he's a moron. I'm no fan of the man. But because Trinidad does so much trade with America, it's in a very precarious position, It has to be seen to be on the good side of a man who's easily triggered. If you're in Trump's good book, then he loves you. If you're in his bad books, he's gonna kick you to the curb. That's an American term. He will kick you to the curb faster than you know it. So now imagine going into doing trading. It's going to take some really good negotiators in Trinidad to continue trading with America. Because last year we did 39 to 40% of our trade deal was done with America. That was billions. If you compare that to Venezuela, which the Prime Minister is trying to do an oil deal called the the Dragon something deal, the Dragon's oil deal, or something similar. You Google it and find out. I know the Prime Minister Keith Rowley, the minute, is trying to do a deal with Venezuela. Now, America and Venezuela don't get on, especially Trump. He hates Maduro. He hates Maduro. Maduro is the democratically elected leader of Venezuela, meaning he was elected by the people, rightfully so, but America don't recognize him as the democratically elected leader because they said he's corrupt, etc., etc. So he's not recognized. So Trinidad trying to do a deal with Venezuela is probably going to annoy Trump even more. And to be honest, for America, they could care less about Trinidad. Trinidad is a very small fish in the pond for America. You have states in America. Most states in America, their GDP is worth more than Trinidad on its own. California in America, their GDP is the 5th richest in the world. It's richer than the vast majority of countries in the world. That's one state in America, right? So Trinidad is a very small fish in the pond for America. So the way this man's going, and he's referred to the Caribbean islands, especially Haiti, as a shithole country. Excuse my language, but that's the presidents of America's words. He referred to Haiti as a shithole country. There's no doubt he probably sees Trinidad in the same light, or the Caribbean in the same light. So we're going to have to tread carefully. And I think the way out of this for Trinidad, we have to invest in our local economy. We have to invest in tourism. We have to invest in agriculture. We have to invest in manufacturing. And this is where you guys come in. This is what you must understand. We have to invest in ourselves, and we cannot keep relying on these private companies. We cannot keep relying on America and Donald Trump. We have to invest in stuff like wind turbine, offshore farming, that sort of thing. Trinidad has got the weather, it's got everything in place for offshore energy, renewable energy. We have got everything in place for that. Trinidad needs to make itself the hub of the Caribbean for offshore energy. If you look at Barbados and the Prime Minister over there, Mia Mottley, she is huge on renewable energy. So we need to start working with these countries to make ourselves better, because eventually the oil is going to run out. Crude oil is going to run out. And where do we go from there? The minute oil prices are affected negatively, meaning that oil prices goes down or gas prices goes down, the Trinidad economy is affected just as badly. That's because we have an over-reliance on oil and gas, and the country is not diversified enough. So the minute there's two sectors are affected, the entire economy is affected. And you can't get your foreign exchange from the bank. You go to the bank, you can't get your money out because the world trades in American dollars. And if the bank hasn't got enough American dollars in its closet, and it's tapped away, and it's wherever they put their money away, they're not going to give it to you, despite you having the money there. They ain't going to give you the money because they're limited on how much they could give to each customer. So you hear this all the time in Trinidad about foreign exchange. I can't get my money with my American credit card. I can't get my money because the bank are limited in the amount of money they could give to you because they don't have enough money coming in the first place because they're not making enough money. The economy is not making enough money. So it has an adverse effect on the customers, on the people of Trinidad. This is how this thing works. So we must diversify our economy. We have to do better. We have to start investing in entrepreneurship. We have to start investing in the youth. The reason the crime rate in Trinidad is so astronomically high is because of poverty. We have to understand this. No amount of state of emergency is going to fix this. No amount of state of emergency is going to fix this. And when are we going to wake up and start playing the same tune? It's not working. What we're doing is not working. The state of emergency is a temporary fix. What happens after that? We have to invest in the youth. We have to eradicate poverty. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. We have to start taxing these private companies that come into Trinidad and take the crude oil out of the country a bit more. We have to diversify our economy. Small businesses are at the core. Agriculture is at the core. It should be at the core. It's an untapped industry in Trinidad, agriculture. There's so much more that can be done. Manufacturing, tourism needs to be tapped into. Who wants to go to Trinidad now? Because look at the crime rate. Most countries are warning their citizens not to go to Trinidad because the crime rate is so astronomically high. I know London, the UK, telling the citizens don't go to Trinidad. Same as America. Most of Europe are pretty much the same because the crime rate is so high. So it has an adverse effect on the country. No one wants to invest in Trinidad. If I'm an investor and I want to invest in Trinidad, I look at the crime rate and think, there's no way in God's earth I'm investing my money there. because I'm going to lose it all. Look at the crime rate. So we have to do better. We have to do better. And I'm saying, listen, we have to invest in our youth. We have to address it. We have to start. It starts here. It starts here, right? Okay, I think I've said enough for now. I'll drop another video soon. But I'll ask you guys to tune into our YouTube page, tune into our Instagram page, tune into our Facebook private group. Tell a friend to join us, because the revolution has to start here. We have to start doing something now, or we're only going to get worse. And it's quite frustrating sitting here talking about this. We need to do better. We need to get better. And yes, hopefully you guys heard me. You understand me. Sorry about the audio on this video. I forgot to plug the audio in, but I hope you guys heard me.